1 Samuel chapter 5, and let's begin with prayer. Lord, I thank you so much that we get the privilege of studying your word, and I pray you would work through it in all of our lives today. Lord, I pray that you would guide me as I preach, that I would say what is accurate with the text, and that I would bring the message across clearly and concisely, and that you would just change us all through this time. We love you, Lord, so much. In your name, amen. So end of chapter 4, as we read earlier, the Ark of God, the Ark of the Covenant, is captured by the Philistines. See, the disobedient Jews had taken the Ark from its appointed place in the Holy of Holies and brought it into battle like it was some good luck charm. God had never told them to do this. In fact, they weren't supposed to do this. But the reason that they had been losing the battle before the Ark was there was because of their disobedience, not because they needed a good luck charm. Well, after bringing the Ark into battle, their defeat continues, and in fact, I think that it teaches there that it increases. 30,000 footmen lose their life in the day. The priests that are there with the Ark, Hophni and Phinehas, are slain, and the Ark of the Covenant is captured by the Philistines. The Ark of the Covenant, the symbol of God's presence among the Jews, was captured. This was punishment for their disobedience. The Philistines are very excited at this great victory. They've captured the most holy religious relic of their enemy, the Jews. Now they have this good luck charm for themselves. See, the false gods of this world at that time were worshipped for what their worshippers thought they could do for them. Okay? They were worshipped for financial gain. They were worshipped for pleasure. They were worshipped for military victory and many other reasons. They had gods for all sorts of different stuff. But the core of the reason for worship was selfishness. The worshippers wanted something from their false god. And this is the genie in the lamp mentality. Rub the lamp and have your wishes granted. Worship this god, fill in the blank with whatever random god it is, and you'll have your crops grow better. You'll have military victory. Your bank account will increase. Your family will increase in number. Whatever it is that you're wanting, go find the God for that thing and worship it to get from the God. Unfortunately, the Jews were looking at Yahweh the same way. Take the Ark of the Covenant into battle, we'll get victory. Sinful worshipers of the true God throughout time have worshipped God for the same reason. They think that because they worship, they will find gain. Rub the lamp and have your wishes granted. But this is not the reason that God should be worshipped. And consequently, these worshipers end up very disappointed by the results of their worship. Proper worship of the true God should be in love for Him, in knowledge of Him, and according to His plan of worship. Let me say that again. Proper worship of the true God should be in love for Him, in knowledge of Him, and according to His plan of worship. We worship Him on His terms, not on our terms. The passage today I will read with relatively few comments. It is going to be an illustration of how we should worship. Then when we get to the end, we are going to take this illustration and apply it to today, and what worship should be like today. So, if you look, chapters 5, 6, and 7 tell the rest of the story. It kind of starts in chapter 4, but chapter 4 is kind of attached to the earlier stuff, so I preached through that in the previous sermon. That's why I read chapter 4 today. It worked out great to do it that way. So you guys have that backdrop of why the Ark of God, why the Ark of the Covenant is with the Philistines. So starting in chapter 5, verse 1. And the Philistines took the Ark of God and brought it from Ebenezer unto Ashdod. When the Philistines took the Ark of God, they brought it into the house of Dagon and set it by Dagon. Dagon was the powerful god that the Philistines worshipped that had given them this great victory over the Jews. So they brought this amazing religious relic of the Ark of the Covenant into the temple of Dagon. Verse 3, and when they of Ashdod arose early in the morning, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the earth before the ark of the Lord. And they took Dagon and set him in his place again. And when they arose early on the morrow morning, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face on the ground before the ark of the Lord. And the head of Dagon and both the palms of his hands were cut off upon the threshold. only the stump of Dagon was left to him. Therefore neither the priests of Dagon, nor any that come into Dagon's house, tread on the threshold of Dagon and Ashdod unto this day. Dagon, the false god of the Philistines, falls on his face before the true God. Of course, Dagon didn't exist. It's just a statue, some make-believe false god that they had. So, judgments upon Dagon for improper worship. The tradition of not stepping on the threshold of Dagon is said to have continued in Gaza into the 1st centuries AD. That's a long time from when this actually happened. Think about that. It's only a couple thousand years ago that this ended. Verse 6, but the hand of the Lord was heavy upon them of Ashdod, and he destroyed them, and smote them with emerods, even Ashdod and the coasts thereof. And when the men of Ashdod saw that it was so, they said, the ark of God of Israel shall not abide with us, for his hand is sore upon us, and upon Dagon our God. They sent therefore and gathered all the lords of the Philistines unto them, and said, what shall we do with the ark of the God of Israel? And they answered, let the ark of the God of Israel be carried about into Gath. Maybe they'll like it in Gath more than we like it here. And they carried the ark of God of Israel about thither. And it was so that after they carried it about, that the hand of the Lord was against the city with a very great destruction. And he smote the men of the city, both small and great, and they had emerods in their secret parts. Verse 10, therefore they sent the ark of God to Ekron. We don't want it here in Gath. Send it to Ekron. And it came to pass as the ark of God came to Ekron, that the Ekronites cried out, saying, they have brought about the ark of God of Israel to us, to slay us and our people. So they sent and gathered together all the lords of the Philistines and said, send away the ark of the God of Israel, and let it go again thither to its own place, that it slay us not and our people. For there was a great destruction throughout all the city. The hand of God was very heavy there. And the men that died not were smitten with emerods. And the cry of the city went up to heaven. Ashdod, Gath, and Ekron, all cities of the Philistines where the ark was taken. The first one, Ashdod, they're like, yeah, let's bring it in. By the time they're taking it to Ekron, they're saying, no, we don't want that thing. All received judgment from God because the ark was not where it belonged. It belonged with the Jews in the Holy of Holies in the tabernacle. It says the men of the cities were smitten with some sort of severe affliction. Here in the King James it's translated emerods in their secret parts. If you read other translations, it'll say like tumors. There's all kinds of different theories among theologians as to what this was. Some have surmised it's the bubonic plague. All kinds of different things have been summarized, but one way or another, if you want to get some men's attention, give them emerods in their secret parts. And God gets their attention. God knows how to get somebody's attention. Giving these men the severe affliction in their secret parts did the trick. Proper worship of the true God should be in love for him, in knowledge of him, and according to his plan of worship. And nothing that these Philistines were doing was proper. Okay? They had the Ark of God. Well, the Ark of God, the Ark of the Covenant, was a good thing. It wasn't bad, but everything was being handled in a wrong way. Chapter 6, and the ark of the Lord was in the country of the Philistines 7 months, and the Philistines called for the priests and the diviners, saying, what shall we do with the ark of the Lord? We're sick and tired, basically, of getting our tails kicked by Yahweh. We're miserable. Get this thing out of here. And in verse 2, tell us whether we shall send it to his place. After 7 months of judgment from God, they are ready to get rid of the ark. Verse 3, and they said, if ye send away the ark of the God of Israel, send it not empty, but in any wise return him a trespass offering, then ye shall be healed, and it shall be known to you why his hand is not removed from you. Then said they, what shall be the trespass offering which we shall return to him? They answered, 5 golden emerods and 5 golden mice, according to the number of the lords of the Philistines. For one plague was upon you all, and on your lords. Wherefore ye shall make images of your emerods and images of your mice that mar the land, and ye shall give glory unto the God of Israel. Peradventure he will lighten his hand from off you, and from off your gods, and from off your land. Wherefore then do ye harden your hearts as the Egyptians and Pharaoh hardened their hearts when he had wrought wonderfully among them? Did they not let the people go and they departed? Okay. Don't do like the Egyptians. Just send the ark back, as that is obviously what is needed. Get rid of it. You guys shouldn't have it. It says, emeralds, that says the images of the mice that mar the land. That is one of the reasons that some theologians think that this is the bubonic plague. We know today that rats spread that in Europe. And perhaps all of a sudden there was an influx of rats in these towns and that it was spreading this plague. We don't know that for sure. We just know whatever this illness was, it got the message across that you guys don't belong having this and this is improper. So here's the solution from the diviners. Verse 7. Now therefore make a new cart and take 2 milch kine, in which there hath come no yoke, and tie the kine to the cart, and bring their calves home from them. To know without a doubt that the God of Israel was behind all of their troubles, the diviners devised a plan that would reveal whether God, Yahweh, was the one responsible, the God of the Jews. Using cows which had never been yoked meant using animals that were untrained to pull a cart and probably would not go anywhere. The second element of their plan was to use nursing cows taken away from their calves. For the cows to head off in the opposite direction from their calves would be a clear sign that the cause of their judgment was supernatural. Because it would totally not make sense for these cows to pull the cart where it needs to go. Verse 8, and take the ark of the Lord, and lay it upon the cart, and put the jewels of gold which ye return him for a trespass offering in a coffer by the side thereof, and send it away that it may go. And see if it goeth up by the way of his own coast to Bethshemesh. Then he hath done us this great evil. But if not, then we shall know that it is not his hand that smote us, but it was a chance that happened to us. Verse 10, and the men did so, and they took 2 milch kine and tied them to the cart, and shut up their calves at home, and they laid the ark of the Lord upon the cart, and the coffers with the mice of gold, and the images of their emerods. And the kine took the straight way to the way of Bethshemesh, and went along the highway, lowing as they went, and turned not aside to the right hand nor to the left. And the lords of the Philistines went after them unto the border of Bethshemesh. The cows went straight to Bethshemesh. They were lowing as they went. They did not want to leave their calves. We miss our calves. We want them. But they did this because they were compelled by God. Logically, this should not have happened. But this was a sign to the Philistines that indeed they did not belong having the ark. That indeed this judgment was from him. There was no doubt now that the judgment was from God. Verse 13 of chapter 6. And they of Bethshemesh were reaping their wheat harvest in the valley. And they lifted up their eyes and saw the ark and rejoiced to see it. And the ark came into the field of Joshua, a Bethshemite, and stood there, where there was a great stone. And they clave the wood of the cart and offered the kind of burnt offering unto the Lord. And the Levites took down the ark of the Lord and the coffer that was with it, wherein the jewels of gold were, and put them on the great stone. And the men of Bethshemesh offered burnt offerings and sacrifices the same day unto the Lord. And when the 5 lords of the Philistines had seen it, they returned to Ekron the same day. And these are the golden emerods which the Philistines returned for a trespass offering unto the Lord. For Ashdod 1, for Gaza 1, for Ashkelon 1, for Gath 1, for Ekron 1. And the golden mice, according to the number of all the cities of the Philistines belonging to the 5 lords, both of fenced cities and of country villages, even unto the great stone of Abel, whereon they set down the ark of the Lord, which stone remaineth unto this day in the field of Joshua the Bethshemite. Verse 19, and he smote the men of Bethshemesh, because they looked into the ark of the Lord. Even he smote of the people, get this, 50,000 and 70 men. And the people lamented because the Lord had smitten many of the people with a great slaughter. And the men of Bethshemesh said, who is able to stand before this holy Lord God? And to whom shall he go up from us? Bethshemesh was a Levitical city. The Levites were the ones that were in charge. Well, technically it was the priests, which were of the tribe of Levi, were in charge of doing the worship stuff. They were the ones in charge of leading the worship in Israel. They, of anybody, should have known how to properly handle the ark. But they did not. And they looked into the ark. So over 50,000 men lost their lives as punishment for improper worship. Do you think God is serious? Yeah. He expects to be worshipped in the correct way. Verse 21, and they sent messengers to the inhabitants of Kirjath-jearim, saying, the Philistines have brought again the ark of the Lord. Come ye down and fetch it up to you. Proper worship of the true God should be in love for him, in knowledge of him, and according to his plan. Chapter 7, verse 1. And the men of Kirjath-jearim came and fetched up the ark of the Lord, and brought it into the house of Abinadab in the hill, and sanctified Eleazar his son to keep the ark of the Lord. It is likely that this Eleazar is a descendant of Aaron, the first high priest. That is likely why the men of Kirjath-jearim asked him to be sanctified and keep the ark of the Lord. So now things are starting to get better. They've got the proper person that's going to be taking care of it. It came to pass when the ark abode in Kirjath-jearim that the time was long, for it was 20 years, and all the house of Israel lamented after the Lord. And Samuel spake unto all the house of Israel, saying, if ye do return unto the Lord with all your hearts, then put away the strange gods and Ashtaroth from among you, and prepare your hearts unto the Lord, and serve him only, and he will deliver you out of the hand of the Philistines. Then the children of Israel did put away Baalim and Ashtaroth, and served the Lord only. And Samuel said, gather all Israel to Mizpah, and I will pray for you unto the Lord. And they gathered together at Mizpah, and drew water, and poured it out before the Lord, and fasted on that day, and said there, we have sinned against the Lord. And Samuel judged the children of Israel at Mizpah. The nation repented of their sin. They put away their strange gods to serve the Lord only. So here in the first two chapters, and then here at the beginning of this first two chapters, gotta say that correctly, just first two chapters, we saw some very improper worship. Now things are starting to get back on track. They're repenting. They're putting away their false gods. They're getting the right person who should be handling the Ark of the Covenant to be handling the Ark of the Covenant. Let's see what happens. Verse 7. And when the Philistines heard that the children of Israel were gathered together at Mizpah, the lords of the Philistines went up against Israel. Oh, they're all gathered together in one place. Let's get rid of them. Let's beat them again in battle. When the children of Israel heard it, they were afraid of the Philistines. Verse 8, and the children of Israel said to Samuel, cease not to cry unto the Lord our God for us, that he will save us out of the hand of the Philistines. And Samuel took a suckling lamb and offered it for a burnt offering holy unto the Lord. And Samuel cried unto the Lord for Israel, and the Lord heard him. In a way, this is almost like a test. All right, so you guys have repented. You've put away the false gods, and you say you're going to worship me. Now let's see what happens when I send the Philistines against you. Are you going to turn back, or are you really going to follow me? Verse 10, and as Samuel was offering up the burnt offering, the Philistines drew near to battle against Israel. But the Lord thundered with a great thunder on that day upon the Philistines, and discomfited them, and they were smitten before Israel. And the men of Israel went out of Mizpah, and pursued the Philistines, and smote them until they came under Beth-car. When Samuel took a stone, then Samuel took a stone and set it between Mizpah and Shen, and named the name of it Ebenezer, saying, hitherto hath the Lord helped us. So the Philistines were subdued, and they came no more into the coast of Israel, and the hand of the Lord was against the Philistines all the days of Samuel. And the cities which the Philistines had taken from Israel were restored to Israel, from Ekron even unto Gath, and the coast thereof did Israel deliver out of the hand of the Philistines. And there was peace between Israel and the Amorites. And Samuel judged Israel all the days of his life. And he went from year to year in circuit to Bethel and Gilgal and Mizpah, and judged Israel in those places. And his return was to Ramah, for there was his house. For there he judged Israel, and there he built an altar unto the Lord. It's amazing what happens when you worship God in the right way. The nation had repented and had turned to worship the true God only. Now God brought a great victory against the Philistines. Proper worship of the true God should be in love for him, in knowledge of him, and according to his plan. At the beginning of the story, we found improper worship of God. By the end, the Jews had the ark back and were handling it properly. They had put away their strange gods and were worshiping the Lord only. At the beginning of the story, I talked about how they were put in this situation by not worshiping God in the right way. They handled the ark improperly. By the end of the story, the Lord saves them because they were now right with him. If they had been doing what was right in the first place, the ark would have never been taken. They wouldn't have had 30,000 footmen die. When the ark of God came back, if they had not looked in the ark, they wouldn't have had 50,000 people slain. When they got things right with God, they put away their false gods, and they were handling the ark properly according to the way that it was supposed to be, according to the Scriptures. Guess what happens? The Philistines come, we're going to get you. And they pray to God, and Samuel offers a sacrifice, and the Philistines are taken care of. Because God's in charge, and he expects us to worship him in the right way. Proper worship of the true God should be in love for him and knowledge of him and according to his plan. Let's look at the first of those.